Welcome back to the e-learning platform, and we're still on subtopic 3 of session 1. I would like us to quickly look through the kinds of agents in international trade. Quite often people are not aware that there are so many types of agents who operate in international trade, and it will be worthwhile for you as prospective forwarders to know such agents. 1. There are factors, namely persons in possession of goods belonging to their principals, their bosses, to be sold for the benefit of the principal. So such agents do not own the goods, they only work on behalf of their bosses and they sell goods to their bosses. That's one kind of agent. 2. There are also brokers who are agents, namely persons who conduct negotiations on behalf of buyers and sellers. There are certain sellers or buyers who may not want to conduct, bargaining and talking and doing all sorts of things about cargo. So they hand such or they delegate such negotiations, to agents to carry out the negotiations on behalf. They are also agents in international trade. 3rd, there are other agents who are commission agents, and they are persons who enter into contract with third parties in their own name. They do not do so as agents. So even though they are agents, they enter into contracts in their own name. So you may be, if you are new in international trade, you might take them for the owners of the good. They are not. Commission agents are not. They are given the authority to, enter into contract with third parties in their own name. The 4th type of agent is confirming houses. They are persons who take on the role of an agent for purchasing and arranging export of goods for an overseas buyer. So some overseas buyers who buy in bulk and as regular business to do may appoint confirming houses, and they do represent the sellers of the goods. So if you want to buy probably good from another country, some sellers might have specific confirming houses. If they do not confirm you, they may have the goods, they may choose not to sell to you. So those are the confirming houses. You need their confirmation, you need their approval, and they would conduct, all the negotiations and arrangement for you to be able to obtain goods from particular sellers who choose such agents. The other type of agents are del creditor agents. These are persons who take on additional risk as surety against insolvency. Sometimes sellers are not too sure about buyers, and they would prefer to have an intermediary, like someone to guarantee for the buyer. So such agents for the sellers become del creditor agents, and they sell. There are other agents who are concerned with carriage of goods. In fact, there are 2 types here. The first is the loading brokers, who conduct loading operations as the name suggests. And the second type of agent are our folks, freight forwarders, whose duty are determined by the trade contract. Their role and duties are open to agreement. Seller may have their own freight forwarder, buyer might have their own freight forwarder. It could be quite different. And each of these forwarders may have separate contract. The contract may cover a range of activities and will differ. So no two freight forwarding contracts are the same. They will differ, and they will depend on what either the buyer or the seller wants the freight forwarder to do, or the services they seek from the freight forwarder. This diagram explains the different types of contracts in international freight business. On the top left, you can see a seller, and in the same box, and the section under consignor, and into brackets sender. On the extreme right on top, you have the buyer, under which you see a consignee and receiver. Between the seller and buyer is the trade contract. The trade contract is only between buyer and seller. On the left-hand side, the top box and the bottom box, you see in the top box, you see the seller, and under which there is a consignor or sender. And at the bottom left is forwarder or shipper. Between the consignor or sender and forwarder or the shipper is what we call the forwarding contract. It's not the same as the trading contract. So the forwarding contract, you can see between the consignor, who is the sender, and the forwarder or the shipper. So quite often, forwarder may be the shipper, the forwarder may be the shipper, and seller may be the consignor, or it might be the seller's representative who becomes the sender. The forwarding contract will be between the sender or consignor and the forwarder, or the sender and the shipper, who would be the forwarder. That's where the forwarding contract lies. From bottom left, you see forwarder and shipper. And on the bottom right, the extreme right, you see a carrier. Between the shipper and the carrier is the contract of carriage. So contract of carriage may be between the forwarder, who is the shipper, and the carrier. That is where the contract of carriage is. Now, you see that on the right extreme, you see transport plus delivery. Carrier is supposed to what? Transport cargo. To move cargo from origin to destination and deliver the cargo on behalf of the shipper or the forwarder to the consignee. This may be in another country. And that is the transport and delivery. So look at it carefully and please make the distinction between what we consider as trade contract, what is a forwarding contract, what is contract of carriage. In the latter stages, forwarders may act as carriers, and that would not change the contract of carriage. There will still be a contract of carriage, except that it will depend on who the contract of carriage is carried by.